with that said, we have our first story, which, of course, is the Madras High Court issues groundbreaking pro-LGBT plus verdict. And this story was a bit of a wild ride because I saw the post coming in on Facebook because most of the people that I play Dungeons and Dragons with in India are working in, social justice fields. So it's like just a tidal wave of people posting about it. I mentioned it to Adita, and Adita was like, yes, there was a court case involving a lesbian couple. And so I was like, okay, well, I will have, I'll try Googling, try finding out the basics and all of that. And it led me down a rabbit hole which kind of just shows the state of everything. For those who don't know, the Madras High Court is in Chennai, which is a city in
Tamil Nadu. Yes, it's in South India.
South India, okay. It's in the city of Chennai, and Chennai has quite a reputation with lesbian couples and how they're treated, at least when it comes to the papers. I immediately, when I searched this, I came across a story dating all the way back to 2008, which kind of showed how things were. And that case involved Christy Jayanthi Mallar and Rukmani. Mallar was 38, Rukmani were 40. They were a couple who had been married off. They'd known each other before, they got married off, and then they came back to each other and they started hanging out more and more. I was trying to think how to put this.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning.
We've already done that. We always did that at the start. I should probably specify, trigger warning, suicide via burning, because it is quite horrific what happened. This couple was found in a flat after having poured kerosene over themselves before lighting themselves on fire. The investigating officers on the scene told the papers that the couple appeared to have died whilst embracing one another around midnight. And this came as a result of years of conflict with both sides of the family attempting to keep them apart, including Rukmani being forced into a second marriage after her first husband left her due to her love for Mallar, and her family moving away as well. So they were really trying to separate the two. It did not work. So they ended up meeting up together in secret. However, both sides of the family verbally abused the couple, as ultimately their attempts to keep them apart failed, and as a final act, they took their own lives as a result. So that's where things were. And then I found another case which was from 2020 in which things hadn't improved much, with families using missing persons reports as a means of separating same-gender couples. On the 24th of October 2020, 3 police officers showed up at the doorstep of Regina, aged 21, name changed, looking for her girlfriend, Ananya, aged 22, name changed. Excuse me. 2 of the cops were from Kerala, which is where Ananya was originally from, before she met Regina on TikTok. Ananya had moved to Chennai 3 weeks prior in order to escape her family who opposed the relationship, moving in with Regina and her mother, who seemed at least tentatively supportive of their relationship. The couple reached out to the International Foundation for Crime Prevention and Victim Care, a group that offers support to women and LGBT plus folk, but the police refused to answer their phones and talk to the people. The police took Ananya away before a lawyer or social worker could arrive on the scene, denying her, any sort of legal representation, etc. And she was then taken back over 500 kilometers away to a magistrate in Kerala in order to declare that she'd gone to Chennai willingly. And in relation to this case, there was a lawyer, Akila, who stated, quote, "In this case, the Tamil Nadu police should have ascertained from Ananya if she was living in Chennai voluntarily. They should have completed the investigation, recorded a statement, and informed the Kerala police. Besides, there was sufficient age proof to show she is an adult. However, that did not happen. They did not allow her an opportunity to seek legal counsel and get advice on the legal course of action. Ananya's parents and the police probably pressured her into going to Kerala to appear before the court. End quote. So again, these are adults. This is a 22-year-old woman. The police turned up at the doorstep of her girlfriend and literally seized her and took her home. There's no mention anywhere about whether or not they would pay the cost for her to go back to Chennai. I imagine that probably wouldn't be the case. So like there's the extra cost involved there now, thanks to the police actions. And of course, like various lawyers were blasting this. There's Akila I just mentioned. There was also senior lawyer Sudha Ranalingam. Also pointed out that a video statement would have been sufficient to present before the court. So if they'd been in doubt, they could have got a video statement from her, taken it to the court, and that would have been fine. Since it was a weekend, and this is to add insult to injury, since it was a weekend, when she was taken back to Kerala and presented to the court, it was via video conference. She didn't even appear before them in person or anything, it was by a video call. Now, at the time, the papers report that she planned to stay with her parents for 10 days before returning to Chennai. And thankfully, she could do that. She could return to Chennai. You know, it's not the same situation as before. But it still shows, like, the act of being seized by police is not a passive act. It is a violent act. And it's one that needs to be justified on certain legal grounds. Those grounds were completely absent here. This was just parents utilizing the police as a means of terrorizing a, queer adult.
I just wanted to add, because I work in this sort of context, that parents filing fake missing persons case in India is a tool very often disapproving families use to sort of wield power over anything that children do. Like, I was actually quite afraid when I got estranged from my family that oh shit, what if they do the same thing with me? Our daughter's gone missing, she's in Kolkata. I've worked in the context of adolescent sexuality, so we deal with a lot of cases where or narratives where there are eloping couples, intercaste marriages, interfaith marriages, and it's the same thing with the daughter's family. Generally, it's the daughter's family which files a fake missing persons report, even if the daughter is above 18, which is the age of majority, and then the police goes and grabs the girl, and the boy is incinerated, and then finally you find out that actually the whole thing was consensual, but by that time the family's already taken the girl. And I mean, what you just described is actually a better scenario. Sometimes the girl just completely disappears, and sometimes it's not even that. For those who are on my personal Facebook might have seen a case I shared that happened actually just earlier this year, where a girl, she just did not want to marry. She wanted to pursue her education. She wanted to pursue her, I think she was doing her PhD, and she did not like the guy that her family chose for her. So she came down to Delhi, and she actually found support. She found support with a social worker and was residing with them. And her parents filed a missing persons report. But thankfully, because her case gained a lot of media traction, she didn't have to go through this whole process.
You say that you were worried about like us and what your parents would do, and it kind of reminds me of because we had to go through the Special Marriage Act, wasn't it?
Special Marriage Act.
Special Marriage Act, which requires the marriage to be posted in...
so if you live away from where you're... So in India, we have a system called permanent address system. My permanent address actually at the time was back with my parents, and I had to change it in order to get married. Because otherwise, the marriage registrar here would have to send a notification back to my parents, and it would be advertised there as well. They advertise the whole thing. So, in case one of us has already a living spouse before or something, we've got something shady going on, it's out there. and we kind of did not want it to happen. I mean, I'll tell you, my family is not that bad, but
there's always the risk, especially
there's always
like
the risk.
it's not just them either. It's also the neighbours and like everyone's gossip sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's very if you're British, it's very village green in India, the sort of gossip style. So even if they had like the parents hadn't thought of it themselves, like the people around them might have been whispering a bit in their ear, and that might cause them to do something.
Yeah, sometimes they might exaggerate. And I would like to.
Herbie,
Herbie, can queer people donate blood in India? There is no law banning anyone donating blood. To be very honest, in my dad's case, a lot of the people who volunteered were actually queer, and I think the maximum discrimination I've heard of in very urban spaces is really against queer men, and you know that's more because of the whole stigma associated with sodomy. But to be very honest, I don't think it's that much of a phenomenon over here. Like a hospital that goes out of its way to tell you that you can't donate blood because you're gay or because you're bi, they're just asking for trouble, especially in this decade.
So those cases kind of set the scene. This is Chennai, and like it seems quite a few people are like moving to Chennai, so that kind of might tell you how other localities are like by comparison. Which brings us to the main story, which is on March of 2021, two women who had fled from their homes in Mandoria to Chennai due to both families opposing their relationships, were brought before the Chennai court under charges of kidnapping because both families had filed the missing persons. So, as with the previous case, the couple had support from the International Foundation for Crime Prevention and Victim Care, which again is a charity organisation that attempts to help women and LGBT plus folk. However, unlike the what happened the year prior, the Chennai judge completely ruled against any further action, taking them back to their hometown, etc., to have them appear before court there, etc. The judge ultimately ruled in favour of the couple, stating that, quote, "The petitioners known each other for the last 2 years, and both of them in unison stated that their friendship blossomed into love, and they were very clear that both of them will be partnered to each other for life. The petitioners did not mince any words, and there was so much of clarity in what they wanted to convey," end quote. So the couple would be allowed to stay under the protection of the foundation. However, and this is where things just completely took a turn that nobody was expecting, the judge also ruled that both sets of parents would undergo mandatory counselling with an LGBT plus specialist, with the counsellor sending the judge a progress report on the 26th of April, 2 days ahead of a scheduled hearing to see if more action was needed. But more than that, I was going to read the quotes here. Sorry, I do apologise for the pause a second. I was going to remember why I've got these quotes here. There's a couple of quotes that we got at the time. The first one stated that, quote, "I personally spent some time doing research and collecting materials to arrive at a proper understanding of this issue. It would have been possible for me to pack my order with a lot of research material and get applauded by the outside world for rendering a scholarly order," end quote. They all stated that, quote, "There was a call from inside which kept reminding me that if I venture into such an exercise at this stage, it will only be hypocritical of me since the order will not reveal my true and honest feeling about this very important issue. To be open, I am also trying to break down my preconceived notions about this issue, and I am in the process of evolving and sincerely attempting to understand the feelings of the petitioners and their parents," end quote. And they also stated that they plan to, quote, "develop this case brick by brick and ultimately construct something purposeful on this issue," end quote. So they were doing all this. However, when the hearing arrived on the 28th of April, the presiding judge, which was Justice N. Anand Venkatesh, I do get there eventually, I believe it was a different judge to the original one, called for an interim so that he also could receive education by a psychologist on the matter, stating that, and I do quote, ultimately, in this case, the words must come from my heart and not from my head, and the same would not be possible if I am not fully woke on this aspect, end quote. And those are his actual words. I do apologize for the usage of woke. So the case was then scheduled to resume on the 17th of June, the 7th of June. So again, it was being delayed. And what happened on the 7th of June was Anand Venkatesh released a bombshell of a ruling, publishing a 107-page report detailing changes to both the justice and education systems in Chennai. Included within the report were the following. 1. Police are instructed to automatically close any missing person cases if, upon initial investigation, the individual is found to be a consenting adult. They will no longer be dragged before the court in order to verify this, reducing the harm parents can inflict upon LGBT+ children. So already that is a massive step in the right direction. 2. Police are to undergo training organised by LGBT+ counsellors and NGOs to help them approach the topic more sensitively. 3. Trans women and gender non-conforming folk are to no longer be placed in male prisons, which again wasn't relating to anything like in the specific case. This was about a lesbian couple, and yet the judge was bringing out rulings on trans women and gender non-conforming folk in male prisons. Which was brilliant. But it continued. 4. Conversion efforts are now outlawed in Chennai, with those found to be practicing said torture being stripped of their professional licenses. For those who don't know what I mean by conversion efforts, I mean efforts to turn an aspect person, a trans person, or a non-heterosexual person into a allo-cishet person. It is psychological torture. It does not work. It only causes the individual incredible psychological harm. So Chennai just came out and said, we are no longer allowing this, which, for comparison, the UK government has been dragging its fucking heels on outlawing conversion efforts. Like, that's been a big thing this year, is how, like, they were promising they were going to do something about it, but they keep adding fucking caveats, whereas this judge just was not having that. But it continued. 5. Schools and other educational institutions must provide a safe and welcoming environment, taking a stance against bullying and providing gender-neutral bathrooms.
Sorry, that's a safe and welcoming environment.
Or provide a safe... Sorry, what did I say?
Self and welcoming.
Oh, sorry, I do apologise. A safe and welcoming environment. So again, something none of us expected. It doesn't really relate to the original case, but this judge has gone all out. Number 6, schools are also asked to ensure supportive families, suggesting that they can intervene on behalf of the state in instances where families are not being supportive of their LGBT+ children. And lastly, the last big thing I noticed was... the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment is to publish a list of NGOs that may be turned to in order to gain more information on how to support the LGBT+ community in regards to counselling, monetary support, and legal assistance with the support of the District Legal Services Attorney.
The District Legal Services Authority, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on with mine. I'm reading out a lot. But yes, so again, this series of changes just came out of nowhere. No one was expecting this. They thought maybe we'll get some progress in regards to, same gender couples and like their protections, but this just went completely beyond that. And the reason this happened is Justice Venkatesh voluntarily met up with an LGBT+ counsellor and started meeting various members of the LGBT+ community. He openly acknowledged the facts that when he was raised, he was brought up to see being LGBT plus as shameful. And he points out how, in dealing with cases like this one, he didn't see that. He just saw two people who were in love and trying to live their life, and so he wanted to personally challenge his own prejudice. And he gave this wonderful quote here. Quote, "Ignorance is no justification for normalizing any form of discrimination. Therefore, I took upon myself the vested responsibility and duty to deliver justice in all its forms and spirit, of cutting across personal prejudices and notions and setting forth to, at the least, educate myself lest my ignorance interfere with in guiding homosexuality and the LGBTQIA plus community towards social justice." End quote. So, honestly, to see a older man, a judge, a person of a respectable position, take on that responsibility and go, I am ignorant of the situation. I am going to go and see someone who is going to educate me, who's going to sit me down and teach me the basics on this topic. You know, that takes quite a bit in putting aside your pride and being open to the facts that, hey, maybe the way I was raised in this regard was wrong. And it's something that a lot of the queer community in India has been celebrating, because hopefully it'll act as a precedent for the other states in India.
And this is especially celebrated because just, I think, a month previously, there was a petition in the Supreme Court that was quashed that asked for legalization of same-sex marriages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like we also had the trans bill in 2019, I believe that's 2019.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, that was it was supposed to be this great thing for the trans community, and it turned out not to be. It was heavily criticized from all sides. I've got a video up on that you can go check out if you want to. So again, to actually see stuff like this go forward without caveats and without, restrictions, that's amazing. That is something that, it's inspiring, it's hopeful, and it does kind of raise the spirits of everyone around. I don't know if there's anything that you noticed that you'd like to point out, Levi, or...
There's not anything I noticed, really. And even if I think I noticed anything, I don't feel like I have any place speaking on this story as someone who's never been to India. But I do just want to say that I don't like judges very much. Earlier this year, I went before a judge because I was afraid that someone who hurt me quite badly growing up had discovered my identity and started stalking me. And I tried to get a restraining order. And that judge looked me in the eye, lied to me that I had not been threatened, and then tried to disavow himself of his choice not to grant me protection by saying that he couldn't do anything. And, we all live in the world. We all know that most judges are terrible, terrible people and have done much worse than that. But it's that moment that really got me to a point where I hate judges with a passion. The pain of that situation has never gone away. So it is really inspiring to see this, to see someone actually learn, actually think about the well-being of the people whose lives they're affecting. And Justice Anand Venkatesh is a name I think that I will not forget, and the only person I have heard of who is deserving of the title of justice, and I want to celebrate his actions.
Of course, it comes during main Pride Month as well, so there's that as well.
Although this is not a Pride season.
I know it's not the Pride season here. The Pride season here is September because it is too fucking hot in both places.
Or November, really. September to December, like that time.
Okay, September the first time we... No, that was Reading Pride.
No, September is when the preparations for Pride began.
Right, okay, yeah, it
And
is
then
December here. So anyway, yes.
November, December is.
So, yes, basic story, happy ending here. You know, Madras High Court says queer rights. And if you've seen the Madras High Court, it is a lovely building as well. It is the most flamboyant building. So if any building's going to say queer rights, it's going to be the Madras High Court.
Let me guess, it was built by the British, isn't it?
I don't think so. But don't quote me on that. But yes, anyway, so with that... Oh, sorry.
I just hope that other countries will take a cue from this and do similar things. You know, the British love to act like they're better than everyone else, especially countries where people are predominantly brown. So you'd think if they really wanted to uphold that perception of themselves, then they might try and do something similar and stop dragging their feet on human rights.
So sad.